So let's just start off with the talk of the town. Who is the Hall of Fame worthy mystery person that Paul White is saying is coming to AEW on Sunday, and then backed up by Tony Khan on the Unrestricted podcast that, yes, that is 100% someone big is joining AEW with a multi-year contract, and they will be revealed on Sunday. Plus, we also have a mystery entrant into the ladder match as well. So we have two mysteries to speak of. I'm assuming that the ladder match mystery is not going to be as big, but they are pimping this up to be a pretty big reveal on whoever this Hall of Fame worthy person is. And there's a lot of speculation, so I don't know. Take it away. Who do you think this is?
So I think this is very interesting to me because we've obviously just had the signing of Paul White, aka the former Big Show from WWE, and that's a big name. And I would have expected, it just feels weird because I would have expected this to be that reveal, but in fact it's the Paul White telling us that they're going to have another. And I would have said that Paul White certainly is a Hall of Fame worthy. Now, when they say the word Hall of Fame, AEW doesn't have a Hall of Fame, right? When it comes to wrestling, but WWE does. And they have obviously been often ridiculed for having their own Hall of Fame that they can just choose whoever they want to put in there. But the one thing that kind of smells a little fishy to me about this is that generally people are put into the Hall of Fame toward the end of their careers, or at least after having a career that is Hall of Fame worthy. And of course, we can look at people and say, well, of course, they'll be in it one day. But the way that this was announced kind of made me feel like it's going to be another old guy or woman. And that part bothers me because, calling them a Hall of Fame worthy, I just don't know. There's something about it that feels to me like it's going to be someone over the age of 40. And that kind of grinds my gears the wrong way because you just don't want to be the place where old WWE superstars go to die. So I'm really kind of conflicted about this. And I'll tell you what, if it's someone in their prime, even if they're not young, but like someone who can go still and really isn't a Paul White, Sting, Jericho's kind of a weird corner case. But if that's the case and it turns out to be someone who's just, in their prime, maybe in their 30s and still going, but a huge name, I'll be totally fine with it. But if it's Sting, if it's someone who's already in the Hall of Fame, like a Kurt Angle, or like I just don't know if I can get down with yet another old guy.
Yeah, it's just so all over the map on speculation on who it actually is. Kurt Angle was the one that came to everybody's mind first, but of course he's 50, I think, this year, or close to 50. We also had speculation, is it Christian? But would that make it Hall of Fame worthy? Christian probably should be in the Hall of Fame. I personally would say his career was Hall of Fame worthy. But again, does that live up to the level of what they are looking for? Would that be a disappointment if it was indeed Christian? I've seen thoughts of it being Trish Stratus coming over because she's still been wanting to do matches here and there. But again, signing to a multi-year contract, it sounds like somebody that should be wrestling on a regular basis. So there's also been, is there a steal that we don't know about that we didn't think about? And people that come to mind is some bigger gets. Would it be, say, Ronda Rousey? I doubt it because I'm sure she would ping it off of WWE for like 10 times more money. But who knows?
That's a decent shout out. I hadn't heard that name yet thrown around. I've been kind of scouring the internet for who people think this could or couldn't be. And Ronda Rousey is a name that hasn't come to mind or I haven't seen online. But one thing that makes sense about that is that they didn't specify a wrestling Hall of Fame, right?
Correct.
Maybe mixed martial arts. That's actually a very good point. And in fact, if it was that's something, I know I'm sounding hypocritical here, but if it was like an older MMA guy, I wouldn't even mind that. Someone who's trying to dip their toe into professional wrestling, like I don't even know who's still active, Georges St. Pierre. Well, I mean, he's inactive in MMA, but physically is active. Someone like that, maybe Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'm not even going to try it. Khabib, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Or, hey, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor just lost his most recent fight to Dustin Poirier, but I don't know if he's going to come over there. I think he's got enough plans. I think they're going to continue to use him in UFC.
I think he also has enough money too, and considering that he'll get paid $20 million for one date versus however much
a year,
and how much you'd have to do. No,
it's a great point, but it's a thought that it might not just refer to the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, I've even heard Paige floated as a possibility, but that she wouldn't be able to wrestle unless something has happened.
Sure she's not cleared, right?
I mean, she might be able to get cleared. Of course, her and WWE have not been on good terms anyways, so I mean, Paige would be a get. I've even heard the possible steal of, because they would have accidentally let the contract lapse, is Becky Lynch, but I highly doubt that one. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I can't see that happening. And to be honest, I think Becky Lynch, and I don't know the woman, she seems like a really awesome person, both, on camera and off camera. She seems genuinely very loyal. And she was able to come up through WWE and through NXT and into the main event and basically live the dream that many NXT superstars and wrestlers, I keep saying superstars because every time I think of WWE, my whole lingo changes. But a lot of folks from WWE, especially NXT, don't actually get that path, right? Like they come to the main roster and it sucks. They're in a tag team. They're a jobber. And like Becky Lynch did the ideal WWE dream. She was one of the first 3 women to main event WrestleMania. She had an amazing run with these titles. So I think she's actually much too loyal to WWE to make the jump. It would be insane, though. I mean, it really would be cool.
And then, so I think the most likelies that I've heard is, of course, Kurt Angle. I've heard Batista, but he, given the stuff that he said on Twitter recently, I'm pretty sure it's not him. But yeah, I cannot for the life of me think who it could be, and it also be worthy of it being the hype that they've given it.
Right.
Everybody that I think it could possibly be, besides CM Punk, would not live up to the hype of what they have been giving it, who are actually available and realistically could come over to AEW.
Right. I think Punk... That's such a hard question. It's like the age-old who was that guy about the what is it, Schrodinger?
Schrodinger, yeah, Schrodinger cat.
Schrodinger's cat. Yeah. That's what CM Punk is to the wrestling world. Like, is he? Well, if he is, then he wasn't, and if he won't be, then maybe he will show up. You know what I mean? People said he wouldn't work with WWE again, but then he started working for Fox. For the WWE backstage, people said that he would return to AEW. I had people convinced that he was returning at the original All Out, or I'm sorry, All In, and it didn't happen. Like, you know what I mean? And we all were ready for Cult of Personality, and it never happened. So, I mean, I think that that's the most erroneous return. And to be honest, I put zero faith or zero stock in that return ever happening.
Oh, then you also have a litigation conflict between him and Colt Cabana still going on, and Colt Cabana's obviously with AEW, so
that's awkward.
Yeah, it's going to be very awkward. So so much out there, and I don't think anybody would live up to the hype. And short of Ronda Rousey or CM Punk, I don't think, or Becky Lynch. I don't know who it could possibly be. So I guess we will find out on Sunday, and we'll be talking about it on Monday after that. All right, so you're listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on YouTube and on Twitch, so pick your platform of choice. Caleb is not looking that great today because he's hot spotting off of a phone, so he's a bit pixelated, but hey, the audio sounds good, so we're good on that end at least. And for some reason, I am like, my connection is going up and down, up and down, up and down, but I'm looking over on Twitch, and at least it's good enough. So all
right,
I have no idea what's going on. We were without power we had a crazy windstorm on Tuesday, and we were without power for almost 24 hours, and then they like did a quick fix, and then they came back the next day and we're without power again for a little while. My reef tank is very unhappy. My fish survived.
Oh, no.
My fish survived, but I have a coral colony that is still looking rough, but I think everything survived. So, but yeah, that was a bit of a pain in the butt, right? Like I need a longer battery backup. Anyways, we do this show live over on Twitch and YouTube. If you're watching it on either of those platforms, we do this show is available as a podcast as well. Comments, question, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at that'swrestling1 with the number 1 at the end. You can grab the RSS feed over at that'swrestling.com as well. If you can't find it on your favorite podcast app, there's a Discord in the show notes as well. You can come hang out with us. Drop a review on all your favorite podcast apps. If you're listening to this if you're watching this on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up. It helps us in the exposure. And with me tonight, as always, I have Caleb Johnson, who will not be as always for a few weeks coming up, but we'll get back.
Yeah, there's going to be a few weeks with the move. Finally getting out of here. As many of you know, I'm right now working and living on a base outside of DC, training for a new job. So we're finally getting out of here in just about 2 weeks or so. So I've got another couple weeks here on the podcast. And then I'm moving to Tennessee. So definitely going to need a few weeks off, but hopefully we'll get back into the swing of things after that. Also, just a reminder, obviously, for our listeners, as Eric already mentioned, we will be doing a AEW Revolution post-show, sort of, about 24 hours later on Monday. We will be, and actually, it's not just you and me. We've got a couple other folks, I think, who are going to be, some of our semi-regular co-hosts are going to be on with us. And we'll be discussing all things Revolution, the fallout, the results of matches. So definitely tune in for that on Monday.
Yeah, Monday at 8:30 Eastern. I know Dave will be joining us, and Daryl is an up in the air. He has class, and then given some of his recent health issues, he may or may not be tired or whatnot to be able to join us. So at least Dave will be joining us, so should be a good one. And I'm looking forward to I guess let's just talk about that right now. Are you looking forward to Revolution? Because I am stoked on this card. Some people are really down on it. I really like what this card has to offer. But yeah, I know you're giving me that. I see the face that you're giving, and I have heard at least across a few different podcasts that they are not super stoked, but they're calling this like the B show level of pay-per-views.
No, absolutely not. I think that this card is going to offer a little something for everyone. I think that I'm expecting, well, I was almost about to say what I think I'm expecting from the main event, but I don't really know what to expect from the main event other than carnage and stuff blowing up. I have no clue. The only thing that's very sure about the main event for me, unfortunately, is the result. I'm very confident in my pick of Kenny Omega to retain the AEW World Championship. But I'll tell you what, I mean, and this was one match I wasn't 100% sure I was excited for, but now I definitely am becoming more excited for Matt Hardy and Hangman Adam Page. At first, I really was considering this just kind of a lower level feud, and it kind of is, but I'll tell you what, Hangman has been built into such a star that anything he's involved with actually now is like piquing my interest. So it doesn't matter his feud because I'm invested in him. And I think this is something that AEW does very, very well, is they're able to build up their people. Like, you don't watch the show because it's the brand. You watch it for your guy, right? Like, you come and you stay for your guy. And I heard a lot of people questioning whether or not the tag team match involving both Hardy and Hangman on Wednesday for the show we're reviewing should have main evented. I actually like that decision because you're really putting stock in someone you've created, right? He is far and away, I think, for the first year or so of Dynamite, their big star they've built. I think him and MJF probably represent the two most stars who were not as established before. And now coming out of, the last year and a half or so of Dynamite, they've really been built to become the biggest original AEW names. If you're not talking about Jon Moxley, Omega, and Jericho, who all got their starts, in other companies. Mm-hmm. But I would say that I like that decision, and I'm really excited for this card, for all of the matches. The women's match has got me very intrigued because I did not expect, honestly, the result of, now tell me if I get this wrong, it's Rio. What's her last name?
Mizunami.
Is
yes.
That right?
Yes.
Mizunami, okay. I almost said Mitsunaki, but I don't know why. But I did not expect that result for her to win over Nyla Rose. So I'm really intrigued now by the women's title match. And to be honest, having Hikaru Shida on this show and then having a little bit of a brawl at the end of the match between Nyla and Mitsunami, that kind of got me really excited. Shida looks great, by the way. Shida's got this like Yakuza like jacket vibe going on and like hair tied back, and she just knocked her socks off. So I was really excited by that result. And yeah, overall, I think the Revolution card is bringing a lot. I think that the ladder match is going to be very interesting for a shot at the TNT Championship. And I'm still excited to see who all of our participants are going to be. So I would not agree with that at all. I don't think that this is a B show. I think that they're bringing a lot of different styles to the show.
Yeah, and I think that's something that AEW has been pretty good at in general, is having a little bit of everything on the pay-per-views. It's not, we have all types of different matches, and they're all types of different styles as well. Just looking over this card, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of stipulations for matches. So it's like, I think this is going to be the show should be pretty good, and I am looking forward to this Saturday. So we'll talk about more of our predictions and where the forks in the road might head afterwards at the end of the show here. So let's get into this, and we start off the night with the match that ended up being way better than it had any right to be. And that was Jade Cargill and Shaquille O'Neal versus Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet. Cody and Shaq start this off, and Cody tries to twist Shaq's arm. Shaq just pie faces him and throws him to the ground. This is something I never think I'd ever say. Cody did a collar and elbow tie up with Shaquille O'Neal. Or I guess it's say Shaquille O'Neal did a collar and elbow tie up with Cody. He pushes Cody into the corner. Cody spins out, hits some chops on Shaq. Shaq turns him back into the corner and just gives him the big show, my hand is massive, and covers your entire chest downward chops. He even hit a backdrop on Cody, hit a rising knee. Jade tags herself in, so the ladies switch out, and we have a little bit of back and forth between the two of them. Jade hits what I'm going to call the Carmella kick, because this is like a type of kick that Carmella does, like this weird bicycle kick that looks freaking awful. I haven't seen Carmella wrestle in 3 years at this point, so I don't know if she still does it, but I'm assuming she does.
I'll throw this out there. One thing about Carmella, she still does a kick like that, but if you haven't watched in 3 or 4 years, she's gotten a bit better.
Yeah.
Like, she's pretty decent in the ring these days. But yeah, as soon as Jade did this, I was like, oh, it's like a weird crane kick, kind of. Yeah. But I didn't like it.
Red gets some shots in, and then Jade throws her across the ring. She does some push-ups showing off. Jade rolls through a crossbody into an overhead throw, and then we have Cody running in, knocking Shaq off the apron. So he's on the outside, and he's got his back to the barricade. And what the heck was this? Freaking Austin Gunn hit Shaq in the back with a chair. Like, where does this come from? I have no idea.
I was so lost because for a second I was like, I'm pretty sure Gun Club are 1, baby faces, and 2, like, allied with Cody in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you just made yourself look like total, like, jerks. Like, you just, Shaq's in there, this great, like, celebrity who even, like, Cody has said in his promos, like, you know, he's given almost some honor and some reverence to Shaq's clout as this great celebrity guest. And Shaq's big, but he's not young. And like, he's just standing there with his back to him and they waffle him. I was like, I didn't like that part. But to be honest, I mean, we'll get there, but this match was better than it had any right to be. So, but that part kind of got me all weirded out.
Yeah, so Shaq beats him up. He beats up his brother, which I always forget his name, the other Gun that I don't remember his name. And he pushes QT around on the outside. Red Velvet hits a moonsault off the top rope onto Jade. Jade and Velvet get back into the ring. Jade basically no-sells that moonsault after like 3 seconds. They fight in the ring over a figure 4 until Jade lets it go to play to the camera. That's an amateur move right there. Velvet hits a few punches to the gut. Cargill sweeps out the legs, and then Cargill sets up a table on the outside. Velvet and Jade fight on the outside, and Jade gets thrown back into the ring. Velvet decides, I'm going to set up a table as well, so she sets up a second table. Back in the ring, Red Velvet hits a massive roundhouse, and then we go back to Shaq and Cody. Shaq hit Cody with a power bomb. It power bombed him like through the ring. Cody smashes into him, smashes him in the face and gives Shaq a body slam, or it was what he could of a body slam. This was kind of somebody trying to body slam Andre the Giant type of body slam. You get them up as much as possible and you let them kind of flip. And that's about it.
Have you ever seen like videos of people who lift, like power lifters, and they do a deadlift? And it's like really amazing they can get up that much weight, but they really only like bring it to their waist and then they just drop it and they're like, oh, you know, that's what I thought of here. I'm like, that's cool. You held him there, but you pretty much just dropped him as soon as you got him up.
And Cody is
only added to the match.
Yeah, Cody is a freaking idiot because isn't he working with like a partially torn rotator cuff right now?
Yes.
Like, we thought this match wasn't even going to happen almost because Cody got injured a few weeks ago. So then Shaq tosses Cody like a mile when Shaq kicks out. So he just like did this massive kick out and just like tossed Cody like he was just like a 5-pound bag of potatoes. Then we go back to Jade and Velvet again. Jade Cargill hits a spine buster. Cody breaks up that pin. And then Shaq is yelling at Cody on the outside. He's up on the apron, and Cody wipes out Shaq, and they go through the tables. So Shaq ends up taking a table bump. Velvet hits a spear, which the camera missed because they were too busy looking at Shaq on the floor for a close 2 count. And then Jade and Velvet reverse each other for a second until Jade hits a wheelbarrow face buster and gets the win. Jade doesn't even sell anything at this point, and she doesn't even check on Shaq after the match. She just stands there and poses.
Yeah, that was my biggest complaint. She didn't check on Shaq. But to be honest, someone in the Discord channel, I think was it Dave? I can't remember. Someone mentioned, of course not. She's a heel, and Shaq is a means to an end, right? She got her big win on TV, and she didn't care. So, that's consistent. If that's the way they meant it, and if that's not the way they meant it, and she was supposed to go care about him, actually, then at least they've got a logical out. I thought this match was, again, as I've already stated, a lot better than we gave it credit for. And I will still maintain that the build was not good.
Oh my God, the build was god-awful.
Training for this. We saw Shaq making a basket. Just watching Jade lift weights. So, there really wasn't a very good build for this. And obviously it was supposed to originally be Cody and Brandy versus these two. But
isn't that a silver lining? Brandy getting pregnant and Red Velvet. I can't imagine what would happen if Brandy was in this match.
That's fair. I think Red Velvet did a great job. Here's something I heard, a comment that I heard online, and I'll repeat because I 100% agree. This match basically could not have been better with the people and the build and with everything they had to work with. This could not have been better. That said, it's a 3-star match. What do you want? It's not even it's nothing at the level of, actual pros in the ring doing their thing. But for the pieces involved, including Jade and Shaq especially, and putting it on first, which one I thought was a weird, decision. I would have thought this would have come later as a big marquee match featuring Shaq. But for what it was, you couldn't have executed this better. Shaq looked like a monster. Just those chops and the power bomb. He did a very good job. I have to give him credit for that. Jade picking up the pin, I thought, at least her glam slam, I remembered.
Yes, that was the glam slam.
It's the Beth Phoenix. It's the glam slam. You and I were talking about who uses that move. So she hits her glam slam or whatever her name is for it. That looked fine. Like you said, my big problem here is that Jade didn't sell that moonsault or anything really. But she looked fine. You know what I mean? She is an athlete who's very in shape, got a great physique, a good look. I actually, guilty pleasure, kind of liked her music and her logo with the Zeus lightning. I think that's kind of neat. I still think she's absolutely god-awful on the mic. But who knows? Maybe there's potential. But this match, I enjoyed myself. At the end of the match, I was like, that's all right. Consider me sat down. And last note, Shaq exploded those tables. They broke into 1,000 pieces, and he sold it like death. We'll talk about it. He got loaded into an ambulance later, but literally he was he looked dead on the ground.
Well, that was 570 pounds of person total between him and Cody going through 2 tables.
More. That's insanity. But I thought it was so good.
I still don't particularly care about Jade at all, though. This didn't change my mind on her or anything.
Maybe I'm warming a little bit. Maybe my cold ice heart is softening. But honestly, I thought her music, her entrance, her logo, everything looks pretty good. She's not great, but she could have been worse in the ring, and she wasn't as bad as she could have been.
And I'm thinking they put this match on not as the main event, so it wouldn't have been the main event anyways, because we have the 3 rookies essentially, and dealing with the timing on hitting time cues would probably be a nightmare. So it was never going to go on last. So putting on first is probably the best thing to do, because then you can clean up whatever time you've lost or gained, depending on how quickly you move. And that's what I think actually the second match was. The second match of this night, I'm pretty sure, was, if we have time, we'll put it in, But if we run it, if the Cargill Jade, Shaq and Jade match goes long, then we'll take it out. I think that's what the second match ended up being.
I think if we ever see Jade and Shaq team up again, that's their tag team name is Shade.
Shade.
I would mention this one other thing too. Honestly, I thought that it was kind of strange that they brought Shaq out. I don't know if you noticed this, but Shaq had a Titantron, and it said I didn't even know what it said, and they didn't explain it. It was
Diesel Mafia.
Big Diesel Mafia or
what the
something.
Hell does that
there was
mean?
3 words. And what is that? Is that his brand? And if it was, they should have talked it up. They should have been representing, this brand because maybe he sells sneakers or something. But when it said that, I got super confused. And they also, this is just a pet peeve, they didn't put Jade or Shaq's last name on the Tron, but they said them both. So instead of just calling her Jade, they called her Jade Cargill, but her logo just says Jade. And then Shaq just said Shaq, and they called him Shaquille O'Neal, full name. So I thought that was kind of funny.
So we go to the commercial after the match is over. We come back from commercial, and they're showing Shaq as being loaded into an ambulance. They say this was recorded during the commercial break. So they have some shots inside the arena while they're just talking about what's going on, and then they cut, and Tony Schiavone has run out to the ambulance, and he wants a word with Shaq. It's these guys are supposed to be dreaming. Aren't they supposed to be bringing him to the hospital? And he's like, screw it, I'm opening this door and I'm gonna get a word with the person who's supposedly banged up so much he needs an ambulance. So I'm right there, I'm what the hell? And then
that's what I thought too. I was he ran out there, and I was just oh, cool. My gut reaction was oh man, more. We're gonna hear from Shaq. And then all of a sudden I was hang on a second, that's an ambulance. You idiot.
And then so Tony goes and he opens the ambulance door, and Shaq is actually the Fiend because he has disappeared.
He teleported.
That is the name of today's video, is Shaq is actually the Fiend. Because he just teleported out of there. He was gone, and they shoot through, and you can see the dude looking back from the driver's seat, and he's clueless about what happened. It's how do you miss him?
Not even Shaq got up and went out the passenger door. The guy driving was what happened?
Right? How do you lose a guy who's 7'2" and 380 pounds? It's impossible to. So.
Did you notice that Shaq was still selling death, and then they went to close the door, and his feet were sticking out. That was so stupid. I loved it though.
So we move on to the match, which I think was just if we need it, we'll put it in. If not, it's fine if we lose it. This was Pac and Fenix versus John, Skylar, and D3. It was a squash. Pac and Fenix destroyed them. That was it.
You're right. This match was probably there if they missed their time cues. But it did introduce, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe we've heard it before, but it introduced Death Triangle music and a logo. I haven't seen that yet. Maybe I missed it somewhere, but it's an inverted triangle with 3 skulls, one on each corner, and it's got some kind of cool music to go with it. And it said representing Death Triangle, Rey Fenix and Pac. So I was kind of down with this. I thought that was kind of neat. Just a nice use of 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I don't particularly remember if we've seen their Titantron or if they've had special music or I don't really remember.
I'm not sure. And what I want now, to be honest, is matching gear. I want Pac to have something not quite at the level of the Lucha Bros style, but something that matches a little bit more instead of just his little tight little black panties. And we'll have him wear something that matches with them, because I want them to move around like a unit. You know what I mean? They are the AEW Killer Elite Squad, in my opinion. I want to see them go and just murder fools.
Yeah, let's get the guy some pants.
Yeah, let's get him pants.
Then we move on to the MJF and Chris Jericho press conference. Now that I'm just thinking of it right now, we had some interesting placement of commercials during this show. Kind of putting them where you're kind of supposed to put them. Here we have MJF and Jericho come out for the press conference, but then they go to commercial. So they've come out, they've teased that they're going to have this right after the commercial break comes back. Makes sense. The other time that they did this was, I think they had Matt Hardy and Marc Quen come out for the main event, do the commercial, and then had John Silver and Hangman come out. I think that's what they did. I can't.
So I liked those two commercial placements for sure, but I also noticed they did a commercial placement, like, I think it was like a minute into, I think it was the women's match, if I remember correctly. And it was like, it felt like it was very quick. Like, we just started, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm interested. And then went to commercial. And I'm like, oh, I got to like follow along with the very first part of this match in the little picture-in-picture. So that felt a little weird. But yeah, there was some better commercial placement, or at least, compared to normal. They started using them a little bit more like WWE does.
Yeah, really I think the best commercial placement is you have the first person, their music hits, they start to make their entrance. And then when you come back from commercial, the opponent is finishing their entrance. Because that doesn't kill the live crowd because something's going on. And you don't really miss anything from the commercial. So I think that's kind of the right placement if you're not doing picture-in-picture. But yeah. So the Jericho press conference, Jericho is saying he is known as Le Champion, but it's been a year since he lost the AEW title. It's time to get some gold around his waist again. Says that he's been a 7-time tag team champ with different partners like Dwayne Johnson and AEW's own Paul White, but none of them are as good as MJF, which great little dig right there. Pretty funny.
I like that a lot.
So we have somebody from Barstool Sports coming up, and the mic was dead. They asked about what the titles mean to Jericho, and they basically blew him off. Conrad Thompson asks if they think Sammy's going to come back to the inner circle when all the fighting is over. They kind of blow him off, and I believe MJF called him turkey tits. Then they're asked about why they beat up Papa Buck. MJF says that it was in self-defense and that he's mad that Papa Buck got his backyard blood all over his new suit. Santana and Ortiz say that the inner circle is willing to stoop to any level. And then we get, which I put in the chat, are we going to get Eric from Montana again? And yes, we did. We got Eric Bischoff, and he asked if they know Papa Buck's condition. And to Jericho, is this the stupidest idea you've ever had to piss off the Bucks, to have them come even harder at you at Revolution? MJF makes fun of the Bucks. The Bucks come out. They cut a promo talking about Papa Buck being the best dad ever. He couldn't afford to send them to college, but he did build a ring for them with his bare hands. Without Papa Buck, there would be no Young Bucks. With no Young Bucks, there would be no AEW. And then they bury AEW because they said if it wasn't for AEW, MJF would be still living at home with his parents, and Chris Jericho would be jerking the curtain at the Performance Center. So it makes it sound like AEW gets the cast-offs that nobody wants and isn't worth doing anything with. So, yeah.
I couldn't tell how to interpret that, because it's like, that's a really good like dig at their opponents. You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, but backstage, like, or in non-kayfabe, like, you've actually built these guys up and you're working to make them stars. Like, whether or not they're your opponents and you hate them, like, that's like a subtle diss at them. But it's kind of like, oh, hey, two of the top guys in AEW turns out they'd be jobbers anywhere else. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't sit right. So it was like a real double-edged sword, because at first you're like, ooh, get him, burn. And then you're like, self-burn.
Yeah, because then in the same breath, you basically just called Jade, Shaq, Cody, and Red Velvet like losers for being the curtain jerkers. So then we have the Bucks super kicking MJF and Jericho. Then there's a giant brawl. Brandon Cutler joins the party. Then the Good Brothers come out and they set up Santana Ortiz on tables, and Matt and Nick send them through said tables. Nick jumping off of the entranceway after climbing up it, and Matt jumping off the stage to the floor. I hope Nick came up grabbing the back of his head super quick, and I can't for the life of me figure out what he hit, because it doesn't look like his neck or head came close to hitting anything.
Yeah, I'm thinking he was just selling on that one. But I mean, he did jump off the heel entrance tube. He jumped right off of that in simultaneous motion with his brother. The camera angle was pretty neat. So they had it down on the floor next to the ring, and they're shooting the camera at the table, but then also up onto the stage, and you saw them both dive off from opposite directions. So that looked pretty cool. And it definitely gives the Young Bucks some cool flavor, like people looking at them like, wow, these guys are really athletic, really cool. But yeah, I think he was just selling on that, but it was a pretty neat spot.
Next up, we have a video package hyping up the exploding barbed wire death match. They kind of recap some previous footage. They also show some footage from Japanese barbed wire death match, and I forgot to write the guy's name down. Did you catch the name? No. A Japanese wrestler talking about being in the death match, and I feel really bad that I'm totally spacing on his name. I had it all day, and now I totally forget. I feel like
they didn't really give it a ton of emphasis, though.
That too.
Like I barely remember them mentioning it.
Yeah, I don't think they. I mean, I think it was written in like the lower third, but that was about it. So. I'm trying to see if there's somebody, if I have it right here, but I'm guessing no. All right. But that was that. It was fine. This is the only time Kenny or John appeared or mentioned on the show. Interesting for a go home for your world title match.
Yeah, that was kind of odd to me. I mean, to be honest, I thought the show was good, but where I thought this episode really, really lacked was building those go-homes, because this and your the tag team one was all right. That was kind of a neat build. But the TNT, no, actually, technically it's not the TNT, it's the street fight between Darby and Sting, or with Darby and Sting versus Team Taz. That was built like garbage. Like, this go-home angle was completely disposable. And I'm sure we'll get there, but, like, this really was disappointing for a show before a big pay-per-view.
Onita. That was the guy's name. All right, we move on to FTR with Tully and Tully Blanchard. With JJ, oh my god, I can't talk. With JJ Dillon coming out with them versus Jurassic Express. So lots of throwbacks here with JJ and Tully, and Arn shows up later. Really, they just need Ric Flair out there, and well, Ole's never gonna do anything because he's just bitter and old at this point. But Ric Flair is still around, and that would be hilarious if they got Ric Flair. But yeah. So Tully and what?
What if that's the Hall of Fame signing?
He's in the middle of a program right now, and he's on a Legends contract. Oh, is
he really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, because that would fit, one, a Hall of Famer, and 2, this weird 4 Horsemen storyline.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's on a contract at this point.
Oh, okay.
He's definitely on a Legends contract. So, Tully and Marco start it off. They lock up, and Tully pushes him right into the corner, lays in a few shots. Then we have Jungle Boy and Dax going, tagging in. Strikes in the corner from Dax. Jungle Boy hits a drop kick to both Dax and then to Cash. Jungle Boy gets on the snare trap on Dax on the inside of the ring. And then he gets pushed out to the floor, and he gets a snare trap on Cash. JJ takes off his shoe and gives it to Dax. So when Jungle Boy gets back into the ring, he whacks him with the shoe. Jungle Boy for a 2 count. Tully teases a dive, and he starts to move, and then he just starts a strut. Like, there's no way I'm doing that. Jungle Boy is beaten up on the outside and body slammed on the exposed concrete. They get the heat on Jungle Boy for quite some time. Luchasaurus gets a hot tag. He runs wild, taking out Dax and Cash. And then he uses Marco as a wrecking ball and throws Marco at Tully to give him a cross body double suplex on Dax and Cash. Luchasaurus misses a spear, goes right into the ring post, and then Jungle Boy hits a top rope Rana, sending, I believe it was Dax, into Luchasaurus, hitting a body slam. Cash pulls Luchasaurus out of the ring, hits a swinging DDT on the floor. Jungle Boy gets hit with the Power and Glory spot with the splashes and the drop from FTR. Marco breaks up the pin. Tully gives Marco a slingshot suplex, and Luchasaurus gives Tully a tail whip kick to the face. Cash gets hit with the Thoracic Express for a 2 count that gets broken up, and then a cameraman comes in and he hits Luchasaurus with something, or I believe it was a camera, and then they end up hitting the Mind Breaker, and Tully pins Luchasaurus for the win. Post-match, it's revealed that the cameraman was indeed Shawn Spears. So Shawn Spears has rejoined. There was some rumors out there on why he wasn't around lately. Some of it had to do with him being hit really hard with Brody's passing. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but he hasn't been around since December. But he's back now with no beard and a blonde mohawk.
Yeah, that was super interesting to see the blonde mohawk. That kind of got me.
Not a good look.
Like, I don't know if I like it. He's at least not without the beard.
Yeah, he needs the beard back.
Just a strange combination overall. But I don't know. Maybe he's trying something new. And I think that there's a lot of promise behind this. I think it could be very interesting. I am a fan of Shawn Spears, and I think that to be honest, I think we kind of saw it coming a while ago before Shawn Spears took some time off there. I think that we really expected to see him and Tully and, FTR together at some point, just because they were both being managed by Tully at the same time.
Yeah, that was kind of weird because they were being managed by Tully, but they were always separate. They're like, it was kind of like he has 2 clients and neither of them will meet each other type of thing, which was always very strange. I don't know why it wasn't put together sooner, but now, of course, it's pretty solidified because they just helped FTR, or he just helped Tully, or who knows how it's going to go down. But at this point, it seems like we have at least the bones of a faction actually coalescing at this point.
I totally agree. I think that it's starting to come together here. The inclusion of J.J. Dillon was very sweet, but I also thought a little unnecessary. I think they could have just had this, because in the end, Sean Spears is going to be the one who helps them win, right? Usually Tully's on the outside in order to distract the ref or, get in a cheap shot or something. So it would have actually been kind of nice to have no one on the outside and just have it fought as a straight 3v3 and give the audience some hope that this is going to, go well for Jurassic Express because there's no one to interfere on the outside. And then have the surprise reveal of the cameraman. I thought that cameraman and J.J. Dillon on the outside, like hitting people with shoes and stuff, was just a little too much chaos for my taste. But again, his inclusion was very sweet and a really cool callback to the Four Horsemen. But I would have preferred to see it be a little less busy in the ring.
Yeah, and even just in a weird coincidence, around the time of this match happening, legendary promoter Jim Crockett Jr. passed away as well around the time this match was actually happening, either during the match or just like right before or right after. So it's kind of a weird coincidence how that all kind of lined up.
I said that's very, very strange and sad.
Then we have Tony walking out over to the stage. Was it JJ that said something to him? And Tony's like, "You're not getting paid extra for this."
Yeah. He came over to the mic because Tony came out to do the segment with Paul White before everyone was in the back. So, Tully and FTR and JJ all went to the back as Tony was still standing out on the ramp. And I think JJ went over and said something like, "That's how you get it done," or something like that. And he was like, "That's great. You're not getting paid extra. See you later."
I thought that was great. Tony introduces Paul White. His shirt says "No more BS," which I thought was great. So you can take that as no really more.
Weird. Whoever came up with that, if that's him, nice job, Paul White, because that was pretty clever.
Paul says, "Raise your hand if you saw this turn coming," which is hilarious. Says he's happy to be in AEW. Talks about the new AEW Dark Elevation coming up. And then Paul White says, "Hey, Tony, I got a scoop. There's a huge signing surprise at," he said Evolution, but at Revolution.
I was like, oh, it's okay. We'll let it slide on your first time, buddy.
And that was about it. But now, this came up on another show that I was listening to that made a good point. If Paul White has the scoop, does that mean the person has history with Paul White? Because why would Paul White have the scoop? If why would somebody randomly give him the scoop if they weren't already tight with Paul?
This means one of two things: either he has the scoop because he knows the person, or two, that person made the decision to come to AEW since Paul White has been hired, which is literally like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So this is either a very spur of the moment decision or someone he already has a connection with.
Right. So I guess we will see how this all plays out. We did a lot. We already did our speculating. So we move on. We have the AEW Women's Eliminator Tournament Finals for a shot at Hikaru Shida on Sunday. And it is Nyla Rose versus Ryo Mizunami. And this match started pretty even, a lot of back and forth. Ryo, there's no H in her name. Ryo hit a lot of strikes. A little bit too much playing to the camera for me, though. That was
a lot too much for me. Yeah, that was my one negative in this match because I did think it was a fun match. But her spot with like chopping Nyla and then doing her little like roll. But she's like rolling, and I'm like, Nyla's gonna just turn around and clock her. And she didn't. She just stood there and took yet another chop. So like that was kind of silly. Like Nyla was definitely ready for something. Like just, make her look a little smarter.
That was my biggest complaint about all the Asian side, all the Japanese side of the bracket matches. Way too much playing to the camera. I mean, the spot, I bitch about it every time when Emi Sakura does it, when she tries to get the crowd to do the "We Will Rock You" stomp, and she takes forever, and the person standing in the corner looks like an idiot for not just moving out of the way for the upcoming splash that we all know that's coming in 20 minutes.
You know? I don't want to make this is only because I thought of it, not because it's Japanese. I'm not trying to make a Japanese reference. But it reminded me of like episodes of Dragon Ball Z where they're like charging up their attack and they're taking forever. And you're just like, can we like just attack them because they should be fine by now? You've been standing here for a full minute and like your opponent's just still like, oh, woozy. Like at some point they're going to wake up and you're just going to get, paid back for it.
Well, later on, Nyla returned the favor of making her look like an idiot for her hanging knee drop. Anyways, Nyla turns things around, hits a running senton for a 2. She works Rio on the outside. Nyla works a camel clutch back in the ring. That was kind of like a half camel clutch, I guess. Rio hits a follow behind clothesline in the corner. Nyla misses a swanton. Rio knocks Nyla to the outside. Rio sweeps the legs of Nyla when she was standing on the apron. Nyla crashes to the apron. Then Rio hits a leg drop off the second turnbuckle onto the apron, forces Nyla to answer a 10 count. Rio was waiting smartly when, as soon as Nyla got into the ring, she hit her with a leg drop as soon as she got into the ring for a 2 count. Bunch of forearms from Rio. Nyla fires back with clotheslines. Nyla hits the hanging knee drop for a 2, which is the most annoying thing that she does. And then Rio hit Nyla with a German suplex that looked like it was effortless for her. So she just, Rio is pretty big, but she's not nearly as big as Nyla, and still tossed Nyla pretty well. Hits a spear, drags Nyla away from the corner, hits the guillotine leg drop, and gets the victory. So Rio Mizunami is going to face Hikaru Shida on Sunday.
Yeah. Not a result I expected, as I mentioned, but it is a result I'm very interested in. My thoughts for this tournament were much different than it ended up turning out to be. But I really enjoyed it. There were some matches, very, very good matches, and a lot of results that I didn't know how to predict. And I thought that in the end, it was very fun. And of all the folks on the Japanese side of the roster, I have to admit that she's probably one of my favorites. Or not roster, I'm sorry, of the bracket or the tournament. Obviously Maki Ito also, just because I'm a absolute simp, I guess. But I think she's super cool, singing her entrance and stuff. But I think we'll see her again at some point. And I know she's got a bit of a following, obviously, for her Twitter escapades or whatever you want to call it. Yes, her vulgarity on Twitter has caused a lot of... Also, speaking of, just as a quick side note, have you noticed the flirting between her and John Silver?
Yeah.
So it's less flirting and more like he likes her a lot and she's just like, whatever. And I think there was a tweet where he tweeted something about how like Serena Deeb was like his favorite person to say hello to in the morning when he gets to AEW. And Maki Ito replied to him and she was like, oh, whatever then. And he's like, well, I haven't met you actually, like in person. And she totally shut him down. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, overall, I mean, I thought that this was a really neat tournament and I'm very interested in how this is going to go. As I mentioned, the post-match here with Hikaru Shida really amped it up a little extra for me. So even more interested in this this championship match. And from what I understand, they also have a little bit of history, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to hear more about that. Hopefully they really talk that up during the match.
I believe Rio is undefeated against Hikaru Shida.
Ooh. Ooh, very cool.
So post-match, Shida comes down with the trophy. They shake hands. Rio pulls her in and hits her with a forearm. She wants a forearm back, and they exchange some forearms, and they break it off, smiling at each other. After Shida dropped her with the last one. I thought that was pretty entertaining. You just mentioned Serena Deeb. I actually just saw earlier today she just had her knee scoped, so we were curious if that was a legit knee injury or not going into that first match with Riho, and why they would bounce her out of the first round. So the knee injury was legit, and she just had her knee scoped today. So hopefully. It sounds like they were just clearing out some gunk and whatnot, and maybe like fixing a meniscus tear or something like that. So, not a massive recovery. So she should be back. I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks. I'm guessing somewhere around that would probably be around that. So
yeah, and I think it's a good time for her if she needs to. I mean, ideally, I want to see her on every episode of Dynamite, but I think it's a good time for her. Post tournament here to maybe take a little bit and recover and get back to being 100%.
Not ideal while she's the women's champion of NWA, but what can you do? So we move on from there, and we have basically a rehash of what we have seen for the past 16 weeks. Tony introduces Sting. I wrote, WTF, why is Sting on this show? He basically thanks Brian Cage for knocking the rust off with the power bomb. Ricky Starks cuts in and walks out, basically says that last week he's finally seen something that people haven't seen in a long time in Sting, and that's fire. It looks like you might still have it, but you still are no icon. Ricky slaps Sting. And then Sting beats them up for a while, puts on the Scorpion Deathlock. He actually got pretty good sit back on that, and Hobbs and Hook break it up. Cage comes in, sets Sting up for the power bomb. Darby runs in, makes a save. This segment was completely unnecessary, so that makes like 5 for 16 segments being worth having.
So imagine this segment for a second, right? We've just discussed it. Like, all right, whatever. So this is their go home segment, I guess. Now imagine this segment. You ready? Like, I'm just going to throw something else out there. What if Team Taz had, like, I don't know, kidnapped Darby, right? And had put him in a body bag and drove him across the desert. What if Sting rescued him, right? They had a real cinematic look to it. He rescues him. What if Sting drags out a body bag on stage live, opens it up, and instead of Darby, guess who? It's Hook, Taz's son, right? And then Darby comes down on a zip line. Like, doesn't that sound better? Why in the world were these flipped? First of all, this was unnecessary, like you said. But the go-home angle is the sick music, the video package, the twist reveal that they'd actually knocked out Hook. Darby flying down from the Raptors on a zip line. Like, the last time I saw a zip line in wrestling was like WrestleMania. And instead, they're like, you know what we really should do is have another boring segment. That'll really hype people up. Instead of this cool high, let's let the last image in their mind to hype up this street fight be just another nothing. Which also, by the way, once again, Sting talked in. When Sting talks, it's not as good. And I all respect to Sting. He could probably come right here at 55 and, kick my butt. But, like, when he does that, the mystique. Is he really?
Yes.
Oh, God. Okay, so, well, he probably still could kick my butt. But, like, you don't need him to say things. He's got this cool look, this cool aura. I did not understand at all. You could have just even had a video recap if you really wanted to hype up the match. But this segment was nothing. Like, even the promo, and I love Ricky Starks. Even Ricky Starks out there just sounded like he was trying to make something up. Like, I didn't like this at all, and I was very disappointed.
Sting turned 62 in 15 days. So he's 61 right now. He'll be 62 in 15 days.
I can't believe it. The only redeeming factor of this entire segment, as you mentioned, was the Scorpion Deathlock looked good. Like, I think Sting still got it. And like that's cool, but you could have done that any other number of ways. We've already seen him take a power bomb. We've already seen him hit a Scorpion Death Drop last week. Like, we got all we needed to out of Sting before this match, and instead they continue to overexpose this guy.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to a Face of the Revolution ladder match qualifier with 10 Preston Vance versus Max Caster. -1 comes out with 10. -1's giving him a pep talk. He's smacking him in the chest, like trying to fire him up. I thought that was great. 10 has to hold Brody Lee back from attacking Caster as Caster is rapping and cutting down 10, which I thought was just great. He's just trying to run through 10, and 10 is just like holding him back, like, you don't want to do that.
This honestly was my favorite -1 segment. I know I've mentioned before that I don't like him on TV. And again, all respect to him and his family. And I think it's cool, but I think he needs a few more years or a little more development before they make him a regular on TV. But you know what? This was very entertaining. When he came out with them, he didn't look like he was trying to be a boss. He was just like out there with them. They're his buddies and his guardians. And then he stays in the ring, giving him a pep talk. He actually made him like come down to his level and like say something in his ear, like trying to get him ready for the match, which was cute already. But then when Caster kept rapping about, and then I think he dissed like -1, he starts trying to get at him, and he made it look really good for however old he is, 10 years old or whatever. He really looked like he was trying to break free, and 10's like holding him back. It was the funniest thing. So I actually really like this segment from -1. Like, I think that everything he's involved in is bad. Like, you can do it well.
I like the end of the -1 at the end of the show was really good too, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. I don't know if you were watching him at all.
A little bit. I'm trying to remember what you're referencing.
All right, so 10 and Max Caster, they have some back and forth. They fight on the outside. 10 gets sent into the ring post on the outside, eats the basement drop kick as well. Scorpio Sky is on commentary, and Cody was mentioned, and Sky said F Cody. That's what he said. He said F Cody. And like, I am trying to figure out, okay, is Scorpio Sky turning heel? Because he sounded like an arrogant asshole the entire time on commentary. He was like such a douche.
I think Scorpio Sky, who I love, like, I actually really enjoy him in general, his performance and whatnot. I think he's probably a little lost right now because SCU has kind of become the Daniels and Kazarian storyline, which also, by the way, hasn't been like as heavily featured because they don't really have a match at Revolution. So it's understandable. But in the last like 3 weeks, I don't think they've been on TV at all. So like, what is he doing right now? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, he's not really up to too much. And if they want to break him off of SCU and turn him heel, fine by me, because I have a lot of confidence in this guy as a performer. But yeah, he did sound a little jerkish on the camera. Yeah, I mean on the desk.
Yeah, so this could be part of because I figured that the Kazarian Daniels part of the storyline is heading towards the SCU breakup anyways. In the end, and this would make sense if Sky is kind of breaking himself off as well, and maybe it'll all come together at one point when they all head their separate ways, or whatever happens out of the Kazarian Daniels storyline. Maybe it's actually Sky that ends up turning heel in the end, and he's the one that retires Daniels, because I thought it was going to be Kazarian to turn heel and then retire Daniels, and maybe it will be Daniels and Sky as his retirement program.
That's a cool thought. I hadn't really thought about that. I like that a lot.
They get the heat on. What?
You should call these guys up. I said, aren't you looking for a job? You should call these guys up.
Right? I am looking for a job. So if AEW no way they're listening to this, but I would love to be like associate booker. They get the heat on 10 through the commercial. 10 makes a comeback, hits a spine buster, hits a slingshot, spear for a 2 count, power bomb for a 2 count, and then Jack Evans pops out from under the ring, hits 10 with the boombox, and then Max Caster gets the pin. And as Jack Evans is leaving, Matt Hardy comes out of the tunnel and gives Jack Evans an envelope full of money. So that has been an ongoing thing over on BTE. Plus, when they offered them money to beat up Hangman as well during that match. So that continues on. So Big Money Matt kind of hiring some protection.
Yeah, I mentioned this in the Discord chat, but I actually really like this Big Money Matt. Like, Big Money Matt, I thought was like a silly nickname and a silly gimmick until he started like paying people cash, in an envelope to do whatever he wanted them to do. And then I was like, oh, this makes a lot more sense now. Like, I thought it was just like big money, like big match Matt, you know what I mean? And no, it's like literally, here's $2,500 in an envelope. Please go kick that guy's butt. So I actually thought this was really a cool little twist because he obviously has beef with the Dark Order. Because at first I was like, is he allied with Max Caster? And I'm like, oh no, he just wants to see the Dark Order suffer.
Yep.
So I thought this was actually really funny.
Yeah, I think it's great. They're continuing Matt Hardy's beef with the Dark Order. So it looks like Matt is building up an army to go up against Dark Order, which I think is going to solidify Hangman's position in the Dark Order and eventually being the leader of the Dark Order as they have to deal with whatever group Matt Hardy assembles. So I think it's a good detour, and it's a good we talked about this before the Matt Hardy program even started, as that Hangman using this detour and Matt Hardy being a good detour for him, especially to build up some confidence and kind of get a new group of friends really at this point. So I think it's a good program, and here we add some more fuel to the fire. So even no matter what happens at Revolution, this program is not over between Matt and Hangman, because it's going to be basically Hangman and the Dark Order versus Matt and whatever group he assembles.
Right. Yep. That's a really good point, actually, because I kind of in my head had thought that maybe this would be their blow off, depending on how long they really wanted to keep the feud going. But it does look like it's headed toward another larger match, which I'm sure will culminate in the coronation. Of Hangman Adam Page as leader of the Dark Order, and again firmly, assert themselves as a babyface faction. They really already are since the unfortunate passing of Brody Lee, but they even more so will be true babyface with Hangman at the helm.
Oh crap! Chris Van Vliet just had John Silver on his podcast this past week. If you haven't listened to it, it's definitely worth a listen. John tells goes through a whole bunch of stuff, his history, and he seems like one of the most fun dudes ever. So
yes. I actually have it in my I have a YouTube playlist, my watch later stuff I'll notice but not have time immediately to watch. Yep. And that's on my watch later, so I gotta watch that probably tonight or tomorrow.
They run down the card for Revolution. I'm gonna skip that. We'll talk about that at the end of the show, because there's just some more fun thoughts on that, because we're gonna run down everything. But there was a Miro promo here. It was just him, and he was super fired up and just talking about their match. And he also said, everyone waiting for Miro to stop playing games, they're going to get their wish at Revolution. So I'm curious what's going to happen. Yes, so we'll talk about that at the end of the show when we talk about outcomes for Revolution, because there's a lot of potential directions that they can go with Miro coming up, especially with what he actually just said. So we move into the final match of the evening, which was Matt Hardy and Marc Quen versus John Silver and Hangman Adam Page. Silver takes Quen down right away when they're going at it, and Quen pushes Silver over into their own his corner, and Hardy just rabbit punches Silver in the kidneys a couple times. Hardy pulls Silver in front of Hangman's lariat attempt, but he stopped quickly, and Silver just hugs Hangman, and he has like the biggest smile on his face, like just pushing the side of his head into his chest. It was hilarious. It was so funny.
I actually wanted to mention that. I'm glad you mentioned it. Otherwise, I was going to stop you and say the same thing. But he pushes into him, and Hangman goes like this with his hands, and Silver just hugs him, and he looks at him. It looks like my kid when he hugs me. I'm just like, this is so cute.
Page and Silver work over Quen. Silver just tosses Quen like he is nothing. He like one time he just like tossed him from corner to corner. Hardy and Quen try to turn things around. Silver hits a standing sliced bread and gets the tag. Page beats up on Quen. Fights Matt a little bit. Page throws Quen at Hardy's feet because he wants Hardy to tag in. Hardy pushes Quen back into the ring, so he gets beaten on some more. Quen does hit a drop kick to the knee, and now Hardy wants to come in now that Hangman has been knocked down a little bit. Hangman tags out. Silver goes crazy. He hits a spear, a bunch of kicks, and then a brainbuster for a 2 count. Hardy hits a backdrop. Quen hits a shotgun dropkick off the top. Silver tags Hangman in. Double team from Silver and Hangman. Hangman hits a buckshot lariat and stares down Hardy as he covers Quen. And Hardy just jumps down off of the apron and lets his man get pinned. After the match, though, Hardy attacks Hangman from behind with the microphone, and he has the microphone, and he's also talking at the same time as well as hitting Hangman in the head with it, talking about that he's going to take everything that he has, and then he says that Silver isn't going to make it out of the Battle Royal, and Dark Order come down to make the save. -1 is out there. He is up on the stage. I'll talk about him in a second. And then basically all of the tag teams come down. There's a massive brawl. -1 in the background here. I don't know how much you paid attention to him, but
okay.
So he was up on the stage, and when the Dark Order comes down, they make the save. He's like all happy and excited. He has his hands up, and then when other tag teams come out and start beating down the Dark Order, he puts his hands in he puts his head in his hands. He's like, no, and he drops to his knees, and he's like, no. It was like,
I missed that part. I did see him like get excited for the Dark Order, but I didn't see him drop to his knees.
Oh yeah, he had put his hands over his face, like, oh my god, what's going on? And then he dropped down to his knees, like when his Dark Order was getting beaten up. Like, this kid, like, he's 9 years old, but he already knows what to do at this point. So,
oh yeah,
like, it is just great. So having them sprinkled in here and there is just hilarious. I'd love to see them on BTE one of these days, though, just like running down the Dark Order like his dad did. But I don't think they're going to let him swear that much.
This is going to sound awful. And Amanda, if you're listening to this, Miss Amanda, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. But what needs to happen is when he's old enough to drop the F-bomb, they need to have him come in there like his dad used to with papers, like after they lose, and just scream, F! And like throw papers at somebody.
That's why it needs to happen. The sooner it happens, the better, because it'd be the greatest. This match was fine. Hardy leaving his man to hanging out to dry is just kind of Hardy's MO at this point. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens on Revolution. Any thoughts on this match?
Speaking of -1, did you see when Matt Hardy was headed to the back? He was starting to get into it with him.
No.
Yeah, so Hardy starts to walk out like up the stairs and over toward the tunnel. And -1's over there like yelling at him and like going like this. And Hardy kind of turns around and is like kind of getting his face, and they started like yelling at each other.
That's awesome. I missed that part.
That was pretty cute.
All right.
But no other match thoughts on the match, really. I mean, to be honest, that was one weird thing, was that they used their final like main event spot to highlight the tag team casino battle royal.
Yeah.
What? Like, that was a little odd to me. You would have thought that they'd use their main event to highlight something else. I mean, now granted, it's in conjunction, because really the main event match was for the Hardy and Hangman,
yeah,
to promote their program and their match. So, I mean, it's kind of a dual purpose, but like the final brawl was, I just thought that was kind of odd to make it the Casino Battle Royal, which we had hypothesized might even be put on the buy-in. We know now it won't be, but like for a match of that less significance, let's say, weird for it to be their final go-home spot before a pay-per-view.
Yeah, weird how it played out. The show in general, I thought this was a good show. The first half of the show was a little bit more solid than the second half, but I think how they had this show set up, putting Shaq on early, especially now that we know that they pulled a 934,000 viewer average for this show. I haven't seen the breakdown, so I'm guessing the first quarter was like super high. But kind of putting it the way they did, having after the Shaq match, having the Jericho press conference, so that builds up the tag match, and then after that having the video package for the world title match, both within the first 40 minutes, might make the most sense, because that's going to be the biggest audience, just how this show was laid out with having Shaq up first. So I don't know how fast the drop, I haven't seen the quarters, so I haven't read about them, so but they did, like I said, did 934,000 for average. So I'm guessing the opening was probably well over 1 million.
I'm actually looking for it right now. If I find it, I'll let you know.
All right, cool. So we have the card for Revolution. The buy-in is going to be Thunder Rosa teaming up with Riho versus Brit Baker and Rebel. Rebel is already trying to get out of the match, feigning that she has a stomach bug and she's not feeling well, even though it's already it's still days away before that happens. Yep.
All right, found it. You are correct. Quarter one. You know what's so funny? It's Shaq and Jade Cargill, and whoever wrote this on the website I'm looking at wrote Shad, S-H-A-D. So I'm like, oh, Shade. Eric's right. Shaq and Cargill versus Cody and Velvet, 1.13 million.
Okay, yeah.
The end of the tag match, quarter two / ambulance spot, was down to 975. Ooh. And then the Chris Jericho and MJF conference goes up by 1,000 to 976. And then from there, everything goes down quarter by quarter. You go 911 with FTR, 903 Paul White, Rose and Mizunami, 881. And by the end of the show, quarter 8, for the main event, you're down to 853.
Still, 853 at the final quarter. That's not bad.
After 2 hours, that's not awful at all. But the show was definitely averaged out by 1.13 million in the first quarter.
So we have that as the buy-in there, and then we move on to the card, and we have Miro and Kip Sabian versus Orange Cassidy and Chucky T. With Miro talking about how he everybody who wants to see him, give up stop playing games. Where does this go after this match? Are we continuing the best friends versus Kip Miro storyline, or do we have Miro and Kip imploding at some point here?
I don't know if Kip and Miro are going to implode in this very segment, in this very match, but I do think that the seeds will be sown. I think that there's going to be some discord between the two of them during the match, maybe a little bit of miscommunication, the classic trope, tag team miscommunication. We might start seeing a little bit of that. And I'll tell you where I want it to go. What I'd like to see, because he said he's not playing games, right? He wants to be serious.
Mm-hmm.
So what if at the end of this match, or even during, something very serious happens, he puts away all of that silliness essentially, and a real killer comes out. He wins the match over best friends. He gets the pin, and out from the tunnel comes Tully. I would like to see Miro be the fourth man in the new Four Horsemen. I'd like to see your tag team, FTR, Sean Spears. I do love him, but I don't think he's your destroyer. He's your face. He's your talker, but he's not your heavy. You need a heavy. You've got a tag team, and you got a heavyweight who's, Cody size, actually even smaller than Cody, I think, is Sean Spears, a little bit thinner. You need a big dude. You need a Miro. That's my opinion. And I know Miro doesn't have the greatest history in factions in WWE, but if he feels and he can trust AEW with this, I'd love to see him become the no-nonsense, talk less, kick more butt kind of guy.
So as far as the outcome of this match, who are you think going to take it? I believe it's going to be Orange Cassidy and Chucky T.
I think it's Miro and Kip. Specifically, I think it's Miro. I think Miro's going to shut him down.
I think Kip is going to eat the pin, and that is what starts the seeds of dissent here.
You know what? That's a fair way of looking at it. I like that. I'm actually, if you don't mind, I'm actually writing these down. So I'm going to track
Okay. We have the Face of the Revolution ladder match. The winner gets a TNT Championship match on Wednesday. So Darby Allin will have to defend his title immediately on Wednesday.
On Wednesday?
And if he can't make it, he will be stripped of the title, according to Tony. So
I missed that part. That was going to happen on Wednesday.
That was announced post show. It was announced later.
Very good. Okay.
So we have Scorpio Sky, Cody Rhodes, Max Caster, Pentagon, Lance Archer, and to be announced. Who wins this match?
So I hate these kind of situations because I don't know who is to be announced.
I know, right?
I'd like to know who is to be announced. Being honest, I wouldn't be surprised to see to be announced win it, because I think we're going to get a few more title defenses out of Darby. And actually, my confidence in my pick of to be announced actually kind of is strengthened, I think, by what you just said, that it's going to be defended this Wednesday, which is one, not a named like Dynamite, like Beach Break. Like, it's just a show. And I want to see the TNT title go back to being defended more regularly on TNT, like when Cody was champion. So I actually think that in the spirit of an open challenge, a new name this might be like a minor debut, or maybe they throw in Mike Seidel or someone who doesn't have a ton of experience. I'd like to see someone with a little bit less, establishment within AEW come in and immediately get a title shot, and obviously be defeated by Darby on Wednesday. But I would like to see that happen. So my guess is actually TBA.
Mine is too, for basically this one. How can you have somebody that you to be announced lose on their first match? Right. So I guess we will see. So I'm going TBA on that one as well. But that match, given who's in it, this should be a fun one.
Agreed, 100%.
Let's see. Let's move these things around a little bit. The Tag Team Casino Battle Royale. The winner of that gets a title shot at the winner of the tag team titles. So I don't know who's going to come out of this. One, I don't have a list of actually everybody who is in it. So I don't know if you happen to have it.
I can tell you off the top of my head, the ones I know are both Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, as well as, I believe, Alex Reynolds and John Silver.
Correct.
I believe they're in it as well. So I think it's 4 members of Dark Order. I believe Proud and Powerful are in this match.
Yeah, I just found a list, so.
Okay, go ahead. Just read it.
So Santana and Ortiz, Butcher and the Blade, Top Flight, Private Party, and Bear Country.
Bear Country?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at Bear Country.
Moving up in the
big
world.
things on AEW Dark, and now they're moving up.
This one is an odd one, and yeah, like the outcome of this one may play into the outcome of the tag team title match as well.
I was just about to say the same thing.
So I'm gonna put both picks out here. I'm gonna say Santana and Ortiz win the Casino Battle Royale, and Jericho and MJF win the tag titles.
Oh man, we've been doing the show together too long. That is my exact prediction. Because we've had the seeds planted for who represents the tag or the inner circle in a tag team. And, Santana and Ortiz are totally down with MJF, coming into the inner circle, but then got pretty upset when it was announced that they would be, the representatives, and they won the three-way. Or whatever they call it, tag team, whatever it's called.
Yeah. All right. So interesting.
Yeah, I think.
So jumping to the tag title match, are you with me that it's also MJF and Jericho taking the tag titles?
So here's the thing. My prediction for the Battle Royal is 100% Santana and Ortiz if. It's like if Jericho and MJF win, then Santana and Ortiz all the way. If the Young Bucks retain, I'm like 50-50. Like, it still could be Santana and Ortiz, and rightfully should, because I love them. But I also kind of think it could be someone like Top Flight, or maybe even like Grayson and Uno, perhaps. Those are kind of the two favorites for me if the Bucks win. But honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking now that maybe MJF and Jericho are winning the tag titles.
Okay, so are we going with a combo if this then that? So if MJF and Jericho win the titles, Santana and Ortiz are winning the Casino Battle Royale. And if or whichever order, I'm pretty sure the tag team match is going on first. I believe that's what they're saying, that the tag title match is going on first. So if MJF and Jericho win, then Santana Ortiz. If the Bucks retain, then you have a different prediction for the Casino Battle Royale.
I'm going to say Top Flight.
All right. Oh, geez. Now who would be the backup on that? If the Bucks retain, what would make sense? Top Flight would be a good call. I think,
but that's not a long program either.
Right.
Like, Bucks and Top Flight is face v face. It's a one-off.
Crap, I think you're actually right on that too. Because I'm looking at this, the Dark Order teams plus Private Party, they're all going to destroy each other because it's the Matt Hardy faction, and I'm guessing that TH2 might get involved in the match even if they aren't officially in the match.
Sure.
So that would bump it down to Butcher and Blade, Top Flight, Bear Country is not winning. Butcher and Blade have already had kind of their matches with so I'm going to have to go Top Flight as well if it's the Bucks who retain.
All right. So the question becomes, what's our prediction for the tag match?
My prediction is Jericho and MJF. If it goes on first.
Look at us with all of our ifs, ands, or buts.
If it goes on first. If it goes after the tag battle royale and Santana Ortiz don't win it, then it's going to be the Bucks.
Then it's the Bucks. All right. Well, I'll put myself down for Jericho. I'm going to commit. And also, listen, Jericho has been without the title for a year. He made that point. Like, you want that guy, your top one of your top stars, let's say that, not your top star, but one of your top stars with the most name value, you want a little gold around his waist. I think that that's a good prediction.
All right, so I think we're both going Jericho and MJF for the tag match and Santana Ortiz for the Casino Royale.
I think you're right. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, is this MJF's first real championship? He had the diamond ring, but this is his first belt in AEW, isn't it?
If he wins, yes.
I think that's my pick.
All right. So we have a lot of ifs, but those are all contingency ifs that don't count. So this is what we think is actually going to happen through the night. We have Matt Hardy versus Hangman Adam Page. Big money match. Winner gets the other's first quarter earnings. I am going Hangman Page here because big money Matt losing his money and losing his mind over losing his money is going to be money.
Oh, I see what you did there. All right. This one's hard for me to predict because I do foresee it becoming the first in a series of matches, not between the two of them particularly, but again, between the Hardy team and the, Hangman team, aka Dark Order. And I think Dark Order comes out of that victorious. So in order for them to get that win back, I think this might be Hardy winning this one with some sort of nefarious interference. I think TH2 gets involved, and I do think that, plus you get a lot of mileage out of poor Hangman, who already doesn't have much going on, and to have him literally sleeping outside someone's door and just having a bottle of Jack, I think that looks pretty funny. So I actually have Hardy for this match because I think that in the end, Dark Order is going to win the next one.
All right. We have Darby Allin and Sting versus Ricky Starks and Brian Cage in a street fight. Darby and Sting, I don't know why.
This is gotta be.
I don't know why you'd do anything else.
Sorry, you're cutting out for me.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why you would do anything else.
Sorry, the audio was being a little bit weird. This has got to be Sting, right?
Right? That's what I say.
You still there?
Yeah. Uh-oh. I can hear you.
Hello. Okay, cool. Sorry, you were cutting out for me a little bit. Yeah. In the words of Tony Schiavone, it's got to be Sting. That's it. There's no other reason.
So I take Darby Allin and Sting as well. Then we have Hikaru Shida versus Ryo Mizunami. I take Hikaru Shida here. I don't see moving the belt off her yet, especially to Mizunami. Wouldn't really make a ton of sense to me. Uh-oh, was I cutting out still there?
Yeah, I missed it. But if we're talking about the women's match, yes. I predict a this is hard because I don't know if Mizunami has enough behind her yet. I don't know if she's really been built up. I don't know how many people were really watching the Japanese side of the bracket. No offense. But if there was some proven, if that was a draw and people were really watching it, I could almost predict her because, and this is going to sound awful, I love Shida, but at this point she's been champion a long time. And I'm kind of almost looking for something what's going to happen next? You know what I mean? What's the next logical step here? And it feels like if the winner of this tournament does not win the championship, we've got to go back to square one and build up a new challenger. So for that reason, I'm going to pick a new champion, and I'm going to say Mizunami to take over.
All right, so I got Shida, you got Mizunami. So we have actually quite a few differences of opinions on some of these things.
Correct.
So the Young Bucks and Jericho, we already talked about that. And then I think the last match we haven't talked about is Jon Moxley challenging for the AEW World title in an exploding barbed wire death match against Kenny Omega. I see no reason to take the belt off of Kenny Omega at this point, so I'm going Omega all the way.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to take it off of Kenny Omega at this point. He became champion in December?
Yeah.
So we're not nearly far enough. And to be honest, like, I'm also not tired of it. Like, I really just think that he can continue to do some really big things. And I think that he really has, as we've talked about on the show before, I think that he really is bringing his A game as a heel, and not the same kind of heel that he was as the cleaner. He's really becoming a little bit more cartoony in a sense, like still villainous and still serious, but there are those moments of just like kind of hysteria, right? Like the segment with
Unhinged.
them in the workshop. And unhinged is the perfect word for it. So I think that we will see him retain, rightfully so. I think this allows Moxley to move on, because if Moxley takes 2 losses to Kenny Omega, now he can start a new program, right? He can go somewhere else. And I mean, oh no, the guy's overall AEW record is going to be what, like 27-2,
right?
If he takes a loss, you know what I mean? Like, no one is going to fault Moxley for losing. And I think a second loss in a row to the champion, you're basically losing your rematch. That gives him so much room to do something else.
Daxter is asking, Sheeta heel turn or still a face? I don't know why she would turn heel. I mean, I don't see Sheeta turn. She's like baby face as baby face can be. So
it's not a bad idea. Like, if you want to spice up that title run, like I said, there's not really, again, I hate to say it, but like, there's not really a lot going on with the women's division, in a sense that like this tournament, which was really good and really cool for the women's division, it's over, right? So like, we're kind of soft resetting what's going on there. So you need, a new challenger, and that might take a little while to build someone up.
Well,
so,
we have
a heel turn would be interesting.
But we have Brit Baker already there. I mean, she would be the logical next challenger. She's the logical next champion anyways, as well.
She's the logical next champion, but she didn't get very far in the tournament.
I know. It's kind of weird.
She won one match and then lost the next one, right?
Right, to Nyla.
Yeah, so I don't know if I see Brit Baker as the logical next champion, correct? But I don't know if she moves into that program, because she did not perform like I wanted her to in the tournament.
Yeah, so kind of the problem, though, if as far as Sheeta turning, it would only make sense if she lost to Mizunami, and that's what causes her to turn. It's almost impossible to turn either direction while champion. It's a really weird thing and is very, very rare.
That's true.
And when it does happen, it's by organic, accidental means and not a purposeful turn. It's usually like the crowd turns on you in one direction or the other. It's rare that it ever happens on purpose. Uh-oh. I can't hear you, so that's a problem. That's strange. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. Yep. And now I can't hear you.
Now I can't hear you.
We're doing awesome.
Okay, so to be honest, I think it is possible, but it's for a babyface turning heel. I think a babyface who turns heel while champion, there's some room there for, like, so say for instance your babyface is being required by management or something to defend the title every so often, right? They're tired, maybe kayfabe injury, right? They're being told they have to defend, and they start to get more protective and reluctant to defend, and they're trying to say, like, why am I being targeted like this? But maybe, just maybe, that could happen. I think it's a lot harder to take a heel champion and turn them face while they have the belt. That just doesn't really work very well. I think there's possibility, but I don't know what the impetus for a turn would be. It would interest me, but I'd have to have a good reason for it.
Yeah, like I said, the only reason I could see her turn is because she lost the title, and that would be she wouldn't be the champion anymore. So,
right.
We'll see. As far as touching back real quick, Moxley Omega is. Do we have any sort of shenanigans from outside parties during that match to help Omega?
That's a very good question. I would not mind because it's already an exploding death barbed wire bat baseball. Like, I don't even know. It's already insanity, right? Like, you already know it's just going to be chaos. So, like, to quote, John Moxley, not word for word, but you want garbage wrestling? Like, here's garbage wrestling. So I think that you're already doing this. So, like, why not at this point? You know what I mean? Why not have the Good Brothers get involved and see what happens here? I actually think that we missed it. I think there's possibility for some Good Brother involvement in the tag team title match. I think that might be where we find our interference, maybe accidentally costing the Bucks the match. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and as far as if anything happens during the Moxley match, that would make the most sense to have Moxley pulled out of the title picture because his character is one track mind on getting the title and being at top. So he needs something big to pull him away from that, to have another goal in mind to destroy somebody because they screwed him, to make it logical to pull him off.
Who I am behind by a few shows on New Japan. Who is the next challenger that they're setting up for the U.S. title?
For the U.S. title, they're going through the U.S. New Japan Cup.
Very good. Okay, so I think Moxley's next program really could be whoever his next challenger is in New Japan.
That's true. That would be interesting. But yeah, we don't know who the challenger is.
Right? That's a title. Like, that's also a belt just in another company.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't know who that is, so they won't be causing a problem for Moxley in this match. So, like, that's how you'd actually get massive heat with Moxley on wanting to destroy somebody.
Right.
So I guess we'll see how that plays out. But I assume after this, Moxley's going to be taking time off, though still, I mean, Renee is still like 3 months away from giving birth anyway. So it's like, it's a little early to take paternity
time
leave.
off is the thing that we discussed.
Right, yeah. But
I mean, we did discuss time off, and I think that's possible.
Yeah, but it's a little early to take paternity leave now when you probably take another month or two after the baby is actually born. So is he going to be out for 5 months? I mean, I doubt it. Or is he heading? I guess it would make sense. Is he heading to Japan for a couple months, leading up to, like, say, Dominion or something, so he can fight at Dominion and be back in the U.S. for the birth by that time? But that would be cutting it close because she's due around Dominion. So I don't know. We'll see. Man, we had some rough internet connections. I'm going to upload the recorded side because I'm sure the recorded on YouTube is probably crap. But anything else you want to cover before we wrap it up this evening and come back on Monday?
No, nothing necessarily to cover, but I will throw out one other possibility, one other prediction. If John Moxley is unable to capture the AEW title here, at Revolution, what if John Moxley, if I can't win here, then maybe I can go take something else. Maybe he can go take the Impact Heavyweight Champion. What if we have a segment, with I don't even know. We have Kenny Omega and Don Callis doing some sort of video package, and they're talking about this and that, and the feed cuts, and on the Tron, maybe they're in the ring, and then on the Tron is John Moxley, and he's laid out the Impact World Champion, and he goes, "You lost sight of where I was. I've taken over your old home, Don." And he goes, "And I will lay waste to this entire company until I take the Impact Championship or receive another match for the AEW World Championship." And
that would be
he could destroy, who is it, Moose, I think? He could just take him out, you know what I mean? Like, and become Impact World Champion. And that would draw some eyes because Impact just posted their worst viewership of the year, or not of the year, but in a year, I think. This past Tuesday, I think they drew 150,000. So what works better for their viewership than Jon Moxley?
Yeah, I think they definitely need to kind of figure out what they're going to do with TV. They need a better atmosphere, and two, they just need a better channel to be on. I mean,
You're right.
At this point, it's like Tony Khan should just buy Impact just for the tape library.
Really,
so when they're ready to make like their own streaming network or something, they have the tape library already. At this point, it's like there's no other. And to maybe kind of spruce it up a little bit. He doesn't. Maybe he can appoint somebody to be the booker, but at least he can kind of throw his hat in the ring once in a while to give some suggestions and kind of spruce it up, because it just doesn't look good. It looks horrible. I mean, it looks worse than NXT, and they're kind of like at the lowest level at this point, I believe. And Impact's even worse than that.
Right. But no, nothing else to mention.
All right, so we will be back again at 8:30 Eastern on Monday after Revolution. So we will be talking that show, so be sure to tune into that. I think Trey and I are going to try to be on Tuesday covering New Japan Cup stuff. There's a lot of shows, and they're packing them in tight this year. So it's going to be a lot to talk about. I've watched the anniversary show, but I have not watched today. There was another show, so I got to watch today's show after we get done with this. So thanks everybody for watching and listening to That's Wrestling. If you're listening to say podcast, we do this show live over on YouTube and Twitch. The streams were a little rough today. I don't know why. I'm probably going to have to reset my entire network, because the upload is just crap right now, so that's going to be fun. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can snag the podcast on all your favorite podcast apps, or at thatswrestling.com. You can grab the RSS feed there. Follow us on Twitter at thatswrestling1 with the number 1. I've been trying to tweet a little bit more often, but not a ton, and Caleb's been really bad at being the Twitter guy.
I just said I would help, but I haven't even been helping. So,
Discord server link is in the show notes. Head over to your favorite podcast app. Give us a review. Give us a thumbs up on the YouTube video, and I'm gonna upload a new video right after this. So it should be a good one. So for Caleb Johnson, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.